welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us on the Laurie and Tall Paul show. I'm Laurie Heinzelman, coach and, career and leadership coach, and I'm joined by my co-host, Tall Paul Olson.
Hello.
So, on the agenda today, we said we were going to talk about individual change and sort of what that looks like, but then also frameworks that you can use to get through individual change. And we've received some great feedback that our personal experiences or personal stories that aren't just related to work are really helpful. So I thought maybe we could use an example of change in one of those personal contexts for today.
Okay, I got one.
Okay.
Okay, so and it's personal. All right, so I'm thinking marriage, and I guess so. I've been married now. We just celebrated 20 years.
Oh,
Okay.
congratulations.
So this is not a recent example. So we're not going to work it like this is something I'm going through now. However, my wife and I only knew each other. Well, we only dated for 6 months before we got married. And then when we got married, from the one of the previous episodes that we quickly had my niece and nephew in our lives, and we're raising our niece and nephew. So how would you take a situation like that and apply some kind of frameworks, for handling those kinds of changes?
Okay. So for this specific situation, if I had a client um, that was going through this, I would first ask them what their goal was, right? What is your goal with our time together? What do you want out of this? What do you want to uncover? So depending on the goal, I would, ask next questions. And let's say, so I'll ask you this question. So what's your goal here, Paul? You just took in your niece and nephew. Well,
Well,
what is
Lori, I got to tell you, this is a lot for me. I thought I was going to be a famous actor, and I had a dream that I was pursuing, and now all of a sudden I am married and tied down with kids that aren't even mine. How am I supposed to handle that? I don't know what my goal is. My goal is to survive day to day. What do I do? How do I handle this?
So I hear three bubbles. I hear that you just got married. I hear that you wanted to be an actor and you feel like that's something that you have to set to the side. And I hear you've just become parents to kids that you didn't have before and suddenly became yours. So those are three big bubbles, three different types of changes that are in your life, all happening at the same time.
Yeah.
So I would ask, which one of those do you want to attack first?
Well, I mean, the kids are most important. So I got to create a stable life somehow for those kids.
Okay.
That would be
So
top priority.
So now that I know your goal, that's what we work towards. Okay. So creating a stable life for those kids. And we would probably work through it to identify something else. So, what I would ask you to do, first of all, is visualize what success looks like to you. What
Okay.
does taking care of those kids look like?
Yeah. So I would say, I mean, in an ideal world, right, they become emotionally healthy and socially healthy. They get good grades and adjust really well to life. And they end up getting good jobs, and they don't have issues with addiction. That's the dream.
Okay. So that's what you visualize success. So for you to have raised them and help them to adjust successfully. That is what you say is success. That's the end
Yeah,
goal.
so I should clarify. I mean, oh, like that's the dream, right? That'd be the
Right.
that'd be the ultimate dream. But if we're just breaking it down to just what does success look like, not the ultimate dream, but what does just success look like?
Yeah,
Success
success for like
is,
the day to day. When will you
yeah,
know that you've achieved that sort of integration, right? And they've adapted and they're doing well.
yeah. I think when the drama at home is calmed, and they are able to function well in society. You know, they're able to get decent grades. They don't have to be geniuses. They just get decent grades, and you know, just like hang out with decent people, and not end up with addiction issues. I think
And you
that's like
say
stripping
this.
it down.
Yeah. And so, and I want to go back to this because if this is the first one people have ever listened to, they may not know about the story that you shared.
Right.
And your
Mm-hmm.
fear of addiction is real, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
because of your sister's experience and they are her kids or were her kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why that's such an important part for
Yeah.
you
That's why
in
there's the focus there.
yes, in
Yeah.
raising them well. So I almost want to get my pad out, my pad and paper, and start writing because I want to take notes. And so we start to break it down. And this is one of the things that I do with my clients when they're experiencing a large change like this. We break it down because it's not achievable all at once, right? So
Mm-hmm.
again, you said small pieces of things that you visualize as success, but you said the drama at home goes away or dies down,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then you also said that they have good friends or they're doing well in society. I heard those two, and then also the grades. There's a third element to that. So we'll go backwards because the grade part, I think, is the easiest to actually measure success because we all know A is doing well, F is you failed, right? Or E,
Right.
some world, whatever. So,
Over here, it's one, two, three, four.
okay. Okay, but you know, right? You know,
Right.
you have a general idea of if they're doing well as far as the grades. So now we have to dig even deeper into what does, let's do drama dies down at home. First, you really have to identify what drama is in the first
Mm-hmm.
place. And what does it look like when it dies down?
Mm.
It's very open-ended, but when
Yeah.
it dies down, what does that look like to you in your life?
Yeah. Okay. I like how specific that is. Yeah. Everybody's going to have disagreements. Everybody's going to have issues. In this case, there are emotional outbursts at the drop of a hat for unpredictable reasons, right? So if the spontaneous emotional outbursts could be calmed or quelled, you know, or you know, for the most part, get rid of, or when if they do have a spontaneous kind of meltdown, at least there's a reason you understand why it's happening, instead of just out of the blue, no clue what triggered it. That would be one thing I think.
Okay. Yeah. So fewer outbursts.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's a clear, measurable
Yeah.
item. Okay. What else?
And then more patience from me.
Okay.
That would definitely be another measure. Is I think, you know, me displaying more patience, and then them getting comfortable enough in their environment that the fear, the fight or flight is virtually gone, and that they can feel comfort where they are.
And again, I'm going to ask you to look a little bit deeper. And you don't have to get into too details. I know this is sort of a personal situation, right? But like, this is where I would ask again to dive a little bit deeper. What does comfortable look like? Right? Does that mean they're putting their feet up on the coffee table, right? They're going in and they're getting food out of the refrigerator? Or does it mean that they're coming to you for advice? Or what does that look
Oh,
like?
that's a great one. Yeah, sharing feelings, sharing emotions, sharing feelings, not shutting down. Um, the ability to yeah to talk to them about what they're experiencing, what emotions they have in the moment, what their fears are,
That's
what their likes are.
And so that's a really great example. And this is a good example just for life in general, right? So I'm going to stick with that one. We don't have to go and look at the third part for the purpose of the show, right? We're just going to
Okay.
stick with that one, right? And getting to the point where you're comfortable enough and you're sharing your feelings with each other, right? Telling each other what's going on with the life. So the next thing I would ask are what would be the obstacles that you see to reaching this point? What obstacles might you encounter?
Um, okay, an obstacle. Let's see. Okay, a couple obstacles would be well, their mistrust, right? I mean, they grew up in an environment where it was very chaotic, violent. Um, so their mistrust of others, their inability to express themselves would be an obstacle. They just did not emotionally evolve. They didn't emotionally grow up because I don't think they ever had the comfort of the environment to where their body or their brain allowed them to do that. Um, yeah, those are the two things that pop in my head right away.
Okay. So when we talk about that, those obstacles, the next step in a coaching environment, somebody that's experienced this, it would be, what are your options? What options do you have to help you combat or overcome those obstacles?
I have another obstacle I'd like to throw out there. I know we're
Okay.
past that point already, but the other obstacle I think would be my subconscious fear of hearing their real emotions, of hearing their true experience. Uh, that was a fear because I don't know what they're going to say. And I don't know what that's going to reveal about my sister and the environment that she allowed her kids to grow up in. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that'd be another obstacle.
I think that's a
Okay.
valid
So,
one. Actually, that's a valid one that a lot of people have not wanting to
yeah,
hear.
I think, as you asked me that, I'm like, okay, I can't just put this on the kids. This is not just the kids. I'm involved too, right? And there's things I'm going through emotions in this situation as well. And so, I really wanted to think back on that. And I wanted to include something about me because, again, it's not just them, right? I mean, and I think as people, we have a difficult time facing that in a situation, we always want to blame somebody else or we always want to say, oh, well, it's somebody else's deal, but we're in it too. And we got our own deal.
You just highlighted one of the most important parts or of change is you.
Hmm.
Sometimes you're the problem. Sometimes you're the one that needs to make the change, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's your way of thinking, a step that you need to take, your hesitation to take a step,
Hmm.
your resistance to hear what they're really going to unveil or reveal to you.
Hmm.
So I love that you brought that up because it's not other people that always need to change when you're going through it. Sometimes it's you.
We can't forget about the mirror.
That's right.
We
Sometimes
can't
it's
forget
you.
about the mirror.
So you think about those obstacles, and in this scenario, I would say, so what options do you have, right? What options do you have to help you overcome those things? And we could list through them if you wanted to make it a real live
Well, one
scenario.
option that we definitely, took as very important was therapy for both sides, right? For my wife and I, and for the kids. So that was like a really big part of our life for years was therapy. And we tried different kinds, we just the regular talking, and then there was like the motion therapy, right? Which kind of worked for my niece actually. That kind of it sounded like hokey, but it actually kind of worked for her. So yeah, so therapy would be an option. I'm not really sure what another option would be.
Well, in that scenario, and again, if this was to actually happen live for me as a coach,
Hmm.
this situation would be something I probably wouldn't coach people through because it is an experience that requires somebody who is a psychologist or a psychiatrist, right?
Hmm.
But it's just a way for us to show an example of how you might get through a change. And so the last step is next step. So now that you've identified a way to overcome that obstacle would be therapy, and you
Hmm.
know that there's different types of therapies out there, I
Hmm.
would say, so what are your next steps? How do you get there? And then you would tell me what are some things you could do from your side to get there. So, for example, you might say, well, now it sounds like I have to do research. on the different types of therapy that are available. Or I have to do some research to find out who is a good psychiatrist in the area. Maybe I need to talk to some of my friends to get referrals. So those are three steps already that you've identified to help you create this environment that you want to create for those kids, right? And it could be you add something else, but what I always suggest, so the framework we just used is called Soon, okay?
Okay.
So that's why I like it. It's easy to remember.
Okay.
So it's what does success look like? What are your obstacles? What are your options to
Hmm.
overcome those obstacles? And now what are your next steps? Okay.
Okay.
So
Nice.
don't,
Soon.
yes. So we walk through those. What are your next steps? And then I like to encourage my clients to have due dates for those next steps so that it's not just sitting out there. They actually have a plan that they're following. But what
Hmm.
I will advise and what I want to say here, and we could wrap this up pretty quickly, is you want to take small steps when you are going through a change, especially one as big as what you just mentioned. You
Hmm.
want to take small steps, do a little bit at a time. Don't do everything at once. You take one action item that you've identified, you knock it out, and then when you're ready, you move on to the next one because you don't want to overwhelm yourselves with all these things you think you have to do, right? All those bubbles that you just brought up, right? There's
Right.
all these things. If you just do one thing at a time, what it does for you is it helps make the change a little bit easier to manage.
That makes sense. How often when you're working with clients do you have to work through some kind of personal issue like this first before you can really get to, the non-therapy part of coaching?
Wow. So, boy, if I had to
Ever?
guess, no, if I had to guess, I would probably say 90% of people there is. So I don't do therapy. I recommend therapy if I do
Hmm.
get a scenario that's as severe as this one that clearly needs somebody who's able to take people through that, right? But
Hmm.
I would say 9 times out of 10, a change that is being made, whether it's in your career, it's in your personal life, even if it's writing a book, there is something personal behind it that is stopping this person that you have to overcome first before you can even start to take those steps. And I uncover that just by asking some of those questions. And generally, it starts with the visualization of what your end goal is and what success looks like. And then we hear all the things that are keeping that person from getting there. And there's a lot of personal stuff inside of us that
Right.
creeps up and keeps us from moving forward sometimes. And you have to unpack that. You got to let
Hmm.
it out before you can move forward. And it's crazy. I know a lot of us want to keep it in there, but if you let it out, it's like, now I can move forward.
Well, it's like, the first, to me at any rate, the very first step in leadership is know yourself. Um, and you have then, in order to do that, you got to be honest with yourself. And that means facing, okay, how do I talk to myself? What do I say about myself in my own head when I have an idea or a dream? What do I think other people think of me? And how important is that to me? Right. And, it's just, if I were to be honest, what is my goal? Like you asked, right? Just to be honest, and I'm just not going to worry about anybody's judgment or anything. What do I want to be? What do I want to do? What is my big dream? What's this thing that I want to accomplish? And yeah, and then what are my strengths and what are my weaknesses, and how do I work on that? But yeah, it's just that idea of knowing yourself is exactly what you're saying here.
Yep. Know yourself, be okay with that, and move forward.
Yeah,
That's how we attack it.
that's right.
Yep. So I think we're good there. This was well, maybe a little more personal topic, but an example of how you could get through the change just by using a simple framework. Again, that was soon, the success.
I like that. That was like, simple and subtle.
Yeah. So I highly recommend it.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. All right.
Until next
Well,
time.
uh, thanks everybody for joining us. If you like the show, please make sure to like and subscribe and share it with your friends. Tell others. Hopefully, that allows us to keep bringing you some great content.
Yes, please. Thank you.